Happy Tuesday and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Rocketeer Minute, where each and every day, Monday through Friday, we go over 1 minute of the greatest adventure movie Walt Disney's ever made, the 1991 Joe Johnston-directed feature, The Rocketeer. I'm one of your hosts, Jim O'Kane of TVDads.com.
And I'm Hal Bryan, an airplane nerd from the Experimental Aircraft Association here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And Jim, we had so much fun with Rory yesterday, we made him come back.
Yep.
He was kicking and screaming, but we drug him back to the show. Rory Aylward, just ex-U.S. Army Reserve and National Guard, technical advisor, extra in the Rocketeer, and so far, by all accounts, all-around good guy. Welcome back to the Rocketeer Minute.
Thanks, Hal. You left off my Nobel Prize. We'll get to that another time.
It's okay. We'll see if we can fit that in a later minute. But Rory gets to really show his stuff here as he advances on an entire troop of stormtroopers, just blasting away, and he'll take the slowest. Yes,
just M1928 Thompson in my hands. I'll face anybody. By God.
Yeah, no kidding. We've talked about that before. If I've had the chance to fire one, and there's just nothing quite like it. You pick it up and it feels exactly what it looks like. It's solid. It's it's strong. You feel pretty invincible as soon as you pick one up.
That bolt goes back and forth. It's pretty magic.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think I mentioned in the earlier segment that while we were shooting, of course, the cameras start rolling and they call action and the whole scene plays out. Well, the Thompsons that they had were, it's an M1928, so built in 1928 or within a couple of years of that. And the one that I had worked well enough, but at one point we're in the middle of a big scene. There's cameras rolling, hundreds of people, and mine jams. And so I just... What do you do when your gun jams? Well, immediate action. You got to clear the jam. But I took cover behind the astronomer's monument, cleared the jam, dropped the magazine, clear it, put it back in, and come up shooting. And I was frankly hurt that Joe Johnston did not include that particular piece of cinematic combat expertise.
Because there's a G-man who knows what he's doing.
Yeah. He turns to Kepler and says, "Thanks, Johan, for saving my neck."
Yeah, exactly. And then if this were a true Disney film, the statue would somehow magically wink, and there'd be a little ding.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for you Star Boys, I'd have been lost out there.
Star Boys.
Wow.
I'll tell you a little backstory about the Rocketeer. For me, and that is, I've as Jim knows from our childhood together, that always had a fascination with the time period, Zeppelins, all that crazy airplane stuff, and so probably around 1984, my friend Joe Massett, for my birthday, I think, gives me a copy of Dave Stevens' The Rocketeer. And at that point, it was the book of like the first 6 or 7 issues. And I had never heard of The Rocketeer. I'd never heard of Dave Stevens, but I immediately became a big fan because that was cool. And so, 6 years later, I hear that they're making the movie, and I certainly wasn't a good enough actor to get on it, but I wanted to do something on the film, and it so happened that they were casting, and so I put I got picked and ended up at Griffith Park. But also the girl I was dating at the time, Gail, was the assistant to the agent for Jennifer Connelly. So I was actually following the film from sort of like this inside track the whole time. And somewhere in storage, I have they had the Rocketeer trading cards, and I have Rocketeer cards signed by Bill and by Jennifer.
Oh, wow.
I had all this other. I went to the premiere as Gail's guest, which was kind of a hoot to see the I think was it Nan's Chinese that they had?
It was El Capitan.
Oh, the El Capitan, that's right. But it was just fascinating. It was just the whole. I definitely wanted to work on it, but I was also kind of seeing it from the inside as the shooting was going on. So it was kind of cool. I was very smitten with the whole project, if you will.
Did it look as good during production as it came out perfect. We all know it came out perfect, but when you were in the middle of it all and you saw all these guys lined up and things, and
they always talk about movies as the sausage factory, and for you see how much footage there is, from Griffith Park, and we were there at least a week, shooting. So of all the stuff they shot there, you get 2 minutes. That's it. That's all you get. So yeah, it's a very labor-intensive process, but I definitely wished I had worked on more of it. I mean, I just enjoyed the whole milieu and being there and being involved in the whole process. So
were there any pages shot that never made it to screen that you saw being done that you were like, oh, I wish that was in the film? Or
they shot a lot of footage. I mean, they were shooting the pages, but I mean, there's a lot of scenes. Well, not scenes, but I mean, there's anytime you shoot a scene as complicated as the one we did at Griffith Park, there's all different camera angles on it, and so there's an awful lot of footage from Griffith Park that never saw the light of day. As a director, Joe's got to look at what he's got and how's he got to tell the story and what particular shots are going to serve that story best. But always you're leaving good stuff on the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, other than the incident with the stunt man, I mean, the whole thing seemed to go pretty smoothly, which was given the number of moving parts, that was kind of a challenge. So.
Question on some of the firearms here. The what are the Germans carrying?
The MP40s or MP38s.
Those are MP38s. Okay.
Technically, they'd be MP38s. I'm not sure if they. I don't know enough about the differences between the two, but it's the basic machine pistol that the Germans carried throughout World War II.
Yeah, nice close up there in about second 20 with the featured player just rat-a-tatting away.
That's it. It was a very solid, dependable weapon for the German army.
Very lightweight.
And Ben Gazzara carries one in the Bridget Renagans. So how bad can it be?
Exactly.
And we get to see all the nice bullet hole stickers that are plastered all over the assorted cars.
It's always interesting watching them do like bullet hits. Squibs and things like that. That's whole. I mean, a lot of the stuff they do with CGI now, but in 1990, certainly existing holes on the antique cars. They're using the decal. You always have a car that it's something that's really bad, and they fix it up for the movie, and then they rig it, to put the holes in it. So.
And you get your big scene here about second 23. We see you coming up on the right hand side of the screen, just lockstep and. Just almost skipping ahead.
Looking like he knows what he's doing.
Anxious to close with and destroy the Nazis. Absolutely.
World War II might have never started right there.
Right. We're going to finish this now in Griffith Park before it spreads. No more flags for you, pal.
So I'm interested, Rory, in a lot of the scenes, both this minute and the one we talked about yesterday, when the lighting is just right and somebody's firing. I was trying to find a good example. Maybe it was that second 19 or so is a good one where you've got the guy with the MP40, which as a kid I always thought of that as a Schmeiser. I'm never sure if that's right or not.
Yeah.
But actually you don't really see it there. But I see with the Thompsons, in some shots you see all kinds of debris sort of flying around. Is that wadding from the blank, or what is that?
That's probably the wadding from the blank. Okay. I mean, the nice thing about, they were using full load blanks to get that real fire shooting out of the barrel, which made it very loud, obviously. Right. But they were as you're rehearsing the scene, you're having to make sure that you're not masking anybody else's weapons, meaning they're blocking them.
Okay.
We're walking forward in the line, and one of the reasons for that is that everybody's weapon should be ahead of everybody else,
right? So
that no one's because at close range, even a blank will put a hole in it.
Oh, yeah. Well, isn't that what happened with Jason Scott Lee or Brandon Lee?
Yeah.
Brandon Lee, right.
There's been a couple of episodes and sets, and one guy was killed just with a full on blank.
John
another guy
Hexam had that with a concussion, right?
Yeah. And then there was a case where, and I don't remember which actor, it was a revolver, and they dummy rounds that they'd put in the revolver because at the camera angle on a revolver you'd see the nose of the bullets in the cylinders,
right.
So they were using the same gun, the same prop weapon for the scenes with the fake bullets. And what happened is one of the dummy rounds, the bullet end itself, which was made of like hard plastic, but it stayed in the cylinder when they took the dummy rounds out and put blanks in. So basically he got shot with the nose of a dummy round, but with the full force of the blank at close range behind it, it killed. So set safety on anything like that is a critical element. And the good armorers are constantly checking people, constantly checking the weapons. you can be a veteran and you can check the weapon, and they'll still check the weapon because they just can't afford any kind of access.
I would assume that before any of this starts up, you have a safety briefing with the armor. Is that how typically they do?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a safety briefing. There's a number of safety briefings. I mean, the armorer walks everybody who's going to be firing practical weapons. They have a safety briefing for everybody on set. We're going to have weapons going. We're going to, all of the safety elements are discussed by the first assistant director as to, and it informs everybody on the set what exactly is going to be going on so that they can be aware of it.
Yeah.
I actually, when I worked on Courage Under Fire a few years later, I actually wrote the safety briefing we had a lot of armored vehicles on the set. And so I wrote something that went into the set report and came out in the crew sheet, was attached to the crew sheet to expect from working around tanks.
Yeah, we had a previous discussion when they were shooting the flying circus portion of the film. That basically you tell everybody there that we're going to be working, in a safe environment, but this is going to be less than safe say if you're going to a real air show. So if you don't want to participate, you don't have to, and you're here of your own free will to do that. So I would think just from a liability angle, but also you don't want to be the one that's yelling action and something like this happens. So obviously it's in everybody's best interest.
Well, the first AD manages the set, and they are also responsible for set safety. And if it goes sideways, it's the first AD that's going to be held accountable.
The smoke that's coming up in the back, are they just dropping dry ice packs into water? I was just wondering where the steam's coming from on that. Are they using smoke generators? Did you remember?
I think they were using smoke pots. Yeah, just basically to give it that look, and also to mask out anything in the background we didn't want to be looking at. But mostly it was for that atmospheric look, and with the lights and the muzzle flashes.
Yeah, a beautiful shot when you guys are all running up between the the fake boxwood hedge props in the middle there. Just Dr. Krupp was talking about how that they actually he had to review whether or not they would be allowed to use those props, but he said it just didn't really affect Griffith Park, so it's okay. Mostly they're hiding. They're probably hiding like either cabling or lights.
Yeah, anybody who does production design and that kind of work, it's all about camouflaging the movie part of the movie.
Right. So, Rory, I've got a weird question for you.
Sure.
And I don't know if you've got the minute up or not, but right around second 23, basically. Your hero shot when I'm finally able to tear my eyes off of your riveting performance there on the right side of the screen.
I'm a little hurt that you could.
Well, I forced myself, and now I'm crying because of it. There's a uniform cop basically coming up behind you.
He's got like a long rifle or something.
Yeah, he's got a long rifle of some kind. Can you tell what that is in this shot? And it doesn't look like he's actually. It looks like he sort of takes a shot and lowers it, but I don't see any flame or anything. So I don't know if it's a mock-up.
To me, it looks like a 22. It's just like a little,
It looks so skinny. It's got it's got a little bit of a magazine there, like maybe something like a Garand, but it looks like something that he brought home from scout camp or something. Yeah.
I'm trying to cue it up now. Not all the weapons were practical,
sure,
and not every. I mean, the other thing is that people would use up all their blank rounds as soon as they started shooting, they just hold the trigger down.
I'm done. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
So, no fire discipline whatsoever.
No
concept of select fire.
Hopeless task trying to get some of the guys to get on board with the program.
As soon as you're holding this thing and to start going butta, it is hard to do anything other than just spray them all down range.
Yes, and holding it at waist level with one on your hip and just shooting upward at a 45-degree angle while yelling.
Right. Which that's marksmanship right there is what that is.
The shot goes on for a while, so you have to pick your moments and be kind of aware of camera and is it on you? Is it what's going on? So if you have any sort of sense of situational awareness, you could make sure that you were actually shooting when it would do some good. But not everybody was that sophisticated.
Right. Well, those drum magazines, I mean, my uneducated guess would be that those would be 100 rounds. But if I remember it on full auto, the Thompson will shoot something like 500-600 rounds a minute. Yeah. So you could empty that magazine in 10 seconds if you just held it down.
I think the Schmeissers had probably a 30-round or 40-round magazine, but because the Thompson had that barrel, that drum magazine, which holds a lot more weapon rounds, which I think is probably 50 rounds.
What are the selects on a Thompson? Do you have full auto? Do they have like 3-shot or?
No, not 3-shot. I honestly don't know whether you can fire it at a at semi-automatic or not.
Oh, so it's on or off.
Yeah.
So, if I remember right, the one that I fired was, and I don't know what era this was built.
Yeah.
My assumption is that it was an original, but I know people have been manufacturing for quite a while. It was full auto, but I'm almost sure there was either a semi-auto switch or a little lever, or it's possible that it was just enough where the trigger was heavy enough and it was slow enough that you could control it and do one round at a time. But I thought I remembered there being, taking a few shots in semi-auto and then flipping the switch and just going for it.
The one I had was one of the 1928 versions, and I'm not sure it had the selector. In any case, they wanted us firing bursts, which because it's cool.
The question on when we get to we're getting into the Luxembourg as everybody's climbing that metal ladder.
Yeah.
There's a quick shot at about second 40, which to me looks like it's a practical shot because of the parallaxing, where Jenny turns around and looks where she's at, and she gets grabbed by the Zeppelin. What kind of a rig was that? Did you see any of that going on when she had to climb up there, or is that really green screen with really great matting?
There's certain pieces. I mean, the pieces of the Zeppelin that the actors had to interact with were real. They were practical, but very little of that. And I was like, so at second 39, she's climbing up. I think that's all. I want to say that's on almost like on a
like a crane or a scaffold or something.
I think it's on a scaffold because you can see the observatory roof in the background.
Right, and that lens flare from the spotlights behind the statue and everything that bleeds over her face. There's just, I couldn't buy that as green screen. If it was green screen, it's probably the best I've ever seen. And
I mean, it's like the Zeppelin cabin set is a practical set. But
it's probably seated on top of a big flat scaffold.
But it's just a piece of it, So it's not, So, but it might be. I'm honestly not sure because I mean the other thing that happens in the movies is that if you're not working, you're wrapped and sent home. So they didn't need the FBI guys for anything they were doing in the Zeppelin cabin. We were wrapped and sent home. In fact, I'm not even sure they shot that at Griffith Park. That could entirely be rear screen projection.
Yeah, just wasn't sure how that was being filmed.
Because the other things, I mean, they're not going to take too many risks with Jennifer that they don't have to, because not only for her safety, but if anything happens to her, now you're talking about shutting down production. Yeah.
You don't want her. The only thing that the show's remembered for is the immemorial that they have at the Oscars.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember that movie. The other thing that we talked with Dr. Ed last week, that he said that they wouldn't allow them to shoot on the roof of the Griffith Observatory because those copper domes are really fragile,
right?
And they actually had to rebuild the whole that hero shot that's going to come up not today but tomorrow,
right? With
the Rocketeer on top. They actually built that as a separate thing up in Valencia.
Yeah.
So that he could stand on his own thing. But we get we're finally off your great scene there, and we're inside the Luxembourg, which is exactly how. I mean, if the pilot house of the Hindenburg didn't look like that, it should have looked like that.
Right.
It's really well done.
Yeah, I mean, anything with Zeppelins. I've been a big Zeppelin fan since I was a kid. So anything that involves Zeppelins, I'm in.
Well, except for physical graffiti, but
well, Led Zeppelin 4 maybe, but not to spoil it, but coming up on Friday, we're going to put Jim in a very awkward position because 2 of the 3 people on Friday's episode actually have Zeppelin time in their logbooks.
Rubbing it in.
Wow.
Rubbing it
and
in.
it's never too early to start rubbing
a couple
that.
of guys from Oshkosh and me. So,
wow.
And Jim, special guest Jim on his own show. One thing I always wonder about in this minute is, so Timothy Dalton he's up the ladder after Jenny climbs aboard. He takes his overcoat off and he's wearing his proper little swastika lapel pin. I want to know when did he go put that on? When did he say, okay, I'm going to be hanging out with my Nazi friends. I need my little, friendly signal I need to show that I'm among friends.
I think keep that handy. I mean, maybe pinned to the inside of your coat just for,
Yeah, he's probably got it in his pocket next to the bottle of ether.
The chloroform
that he uses on his dates.
What if a Bund breaks out? You don't want to be out of uniform.
Exactly.
Uh,
You never know when a Bund is just going to spring into being, right?
Good heavens.
And he's got he's just as fashion conscious as Howard Hughes. He's got the bar Dexter tie on with those stripes going up from the right.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
what a nice little didn't spring for the four in hand. It looks like just a plain old half Windsor, but very nice, very dapper man with the vests and stuff.
yeah, I mean, the hat looks good on him, but that hat wouldn't work on me. So I'm. I mean, just it's too wide in the crown. He didn't have if it's not a pinch brim fedora, or a pinch crown,
Yeah, well, he should have gone with the Homburg like Eddie Valentine. That would have been more German, more proper, and
well, he's trying to pull off that whole Errol Flynn impression. So it's
yeah. So and of course we're back to the German part. This is as we discussed offline that it's not a good movie with Germans until somebody yells Schnell and he. He gets the yell, get the ship out of range, Schnell,
yes, because it's almost it's German signaling. I mean, you have to let the audience know.
It's the big.
By the way,
it's a giant German wolf whistle.
and how tired must the Germans be of being the bad guys? It's like my second tour in Afghanistan, I was a liaison to a German outfit, and it was like me and like 20 other Americans and like 2,100 Germans. It's like, nicest people. You get great soldiers, good folks. And it's like, all right, can we find another bad guy? Isn't Putin available? I mean,
but he didn't say Jawohl, mein Herr. He said just klar. I mean, that's what you're expecting. He does do a great job. And then this other guy who must have known Tote from Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, my face didn't melt.
Right. Yeah. And he got the glasses.
He does have the big, the nice Harry Potters.
Yeah.
Right. Harry Potter / John Lennon.
Yeah.
It's the central casting version of Germans comes down.
Yeah. Hal, you're my accent guy for Germany. Does he have a Bavarian touch to him? Do you know where that are you?
Boy. I'd be faking it if I said I heard enough to tell you the truth. It does sound, if I were to choose between the two that I know to a certain degree, which would be that proper Bavarian versus the more sort of the guttural, the former East where I spent a fair amount of time. Yeah. I would lean toward Bavarian just because it does sound crisper and more cultured, and that's what I would expect. But that's anything beyond that, and I am really bluffing.
Well, yeah, he's good. Go ahead.
I was going to suggest that that Hal take a look at the movie I produced, Silent Night, which is a Linda Hamilton movie for Hallmark. But now I'm afraid that he's going to be picking the accents apart.
Oh no, please, not at all.
Linda Hamilton had to speak German phonetically, and to mixed results.
Was she fun to work with?
She's great to work with.
I always really thought highly of her. I thought she was terrific.
So I was producing this film, and I wasn't in charge, but I was one of the producers, and the executive producer, Steve Hewitt, and Hallmark were gracious enough to bring my friend Steve Rubin and I up to Canada to work on the film. And we went to Kate Capshaw to see if she was interested in playing the lead, and we went to Jessica Lange, and neither of them responded. And I had worked in 1997. I was the military advisor on a movie called Dante's Peak, and I brought a bunch of
the volcano with Pierce Brosnan and all that. Yeah,
and Linda's in the movie. And I brought a bunch of National Guardsmen to work and play National Guardsmen because I'm literal-minded that way.
Not very imaginative, man. Come on.
But so it was one night we were on the set in Los Angeles, and it was Linda's 40th birthday. And they had a cake, and they had a party, and everybody sang, and then the crew goes back to set the next shot. And Linda and her assistant are still in the catering tent, and my guys were eating last because they didn't, you eat in the order of when you're needed next, and my guys were not on the front of that list. But Linda stayed and cut a slice of her birthday cake for every one of my soldiers.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and it made such an impression on me that 5 years later, when I'm casting Silent Night, I said, let's go to Linda Hamilton. And she read it that day and accepted the offer the next day. And she was such a pleasure to work with because she set, she was the big star, but set the tone for all the actors that she was just there to work, and she stayed for all her for all of their close-ups. Was just kind of set the professional tone for the entire set. So it was a great experience working with her.
Gosh, that's terrific.
Yeah, she's quality.
Yeah. and she can she can rack a shotgun.
And she can
with
rack
one
a shotgun one-handed.
Silent Night is available on Amazon. Is that
Yeah,
true?
I think so.
I'll be ordering it as soon as we're done, just so you know.
Cool. Good. That's one more sale I won't be getting any residuals from, but thank you, Hal.
Well, it's the spirit of the thing.
It's okay. That's all the money we're clearing on our Amazon Amazon sales. We're about even. They're just saving as soon as they can afford the postage stamp. They're going to send the check.
Excellent.
Oh, and I didn't buy it through, or I won't buy it through our site, Jim. So you know that's.
Oh, okay. going off the grid. Wow. Well, we're gonna leave. We're gonna leave the wonderful Timothy Dalton explaining that the rocket will come to us, which is such a great line. That's like the line of the movie. He just drops that one, and all of a sudden he's Prince Baron again.
Yes, he's back in charge. His plan is working.
Yeah.
It wasn't looking great there for a while, but now we've got the girl. The rocket will come to us. Everything is happening as I have foreseen it.
Yes. It is according to the prophecies.
Yes, yes, it is.
Yes, follow the brunette who was told at a young age. Just as he's saying that, the searchlights are just spanning across the bottom of the cockpit, which is. There is something that I had read about this particular scene, that they had to reshoot most of it because when it was originally shot, they thought instead of using a Steadicam, they do the reverse of that, and they tie like a vibrator to the bottom of this vibrating platform on the camera to make the camera look like it was shaking because the whole the Zeppelin's moving.
Right.
And as it turned out, when you blow that up to 60 feet wide on a screen, all it does is make people seasick and hard to follow any of the who is that? Timothy Dalton? All I'm just seeing is a blur.
Oh wow!
And so they had to go back and redo the scene without the removing any vibration at all, and just adding a little bit of flashing lights and stuff, and do it the normal way.
It's like they never watched Star Trek. Just have the actors.
Exactly.
Lean into it. Grab the chair. Swing.
Watch the camera tilt.
And one thing I never noticed until I watched this scene at the frame by frame level is this is the scene where he gets rid of his hat. It just I had remembered in watching the movie before, he's got the hat on, then he doesn't have the hat on, and where did the hat go? And it's just at the last couple of seconds of this particular scene, he doffs his fedora.
And he sort of
for the
throws
last
it
time.
down angrily too, doesn't he? He's punctuating his statement as he's reasserting his authority too.
Yeah. Just
now that he's got
alpha Nazi.
Now that he's got the pin back on, of course he's in charge.
Well, sure. Yeah.
I'm a party official.
What do you think the dial is? I just wondered while we're in the Zeppelin, what is that gigantic dial? Is it just telling you how much flames there are? It just set at a low level at the moment, or I don't know.
I think you turn that to up, you point it towards 12, it goes up.
See, and I have the sense that in this shot that the helm is behind the camera, right? Am I picturing that correctly? That we're looking
we're looking toward
aft,
the back.
right? At the gondola and everything else.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Because when they're getting on, the bow of the ship is pointed to the east.
Okay.
Of on Griffith Park. Like if you're assuming that the front door of Griffith Observatory is north, east would be where the Zeppelin is headed, or kind of northeast. So they got in on the port side, and you're looking backwards toward the stairway that brings you up to the hatch number 7.
And which way to the smoking lounge?
Yes, that's aft.
I'm assuming that it's down the ladder and then behind, or is there a doorway behind it?
There's a door. Should be a door back behind Lothar, because they're in basically the kind of the lowest point of the Zeppelin right now. They're in the cab gondola, which is toward the front of the Zeppelin. And then you would go aft out of the back of that gondola inside the structure to get to the passenger compartments and, the restaurant, the smoking lounge and stuff.
The windows kind of go along. If you cut a hole in the front of the ship and looked at it like a clock, the windows on the ship would be like at 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, and there's that. So there's a circular staircase back there. It does go. I don't think it goes down much from this scene. I think that circular staircase just goes up, but there's got to be a door back there somewhere, or maybe you go up the staircase to a catwalk and then down into the passenger area.
Yeah, but they didn't have the money to do all that. So
As far as that valve goes, though, where it's not part of sort of a traditional instrument panel, or it's not something the pilot would be facing, I would assume that would be something for an engineer. So it would
like a fueling
it could be fuel. It could be, although it's a singular gauge, it could be just a singular altimeter, which would be a little bit strange for an engineer to have. It could be fuel quantity. It could be hydrogen quantity. It could be buoyancy.
I forget how big the crew of a Zeppelin was, but I mean, you have a steersman, you have a guy controlling the elevator. I mean, it's if I remember correctly, I mean, the various duties are broken up much more than they on an airplane, for instance.
Sure. Yeah, you've almost got a person for every sort of axis of control. Yeah. No pun intended. What with them being Nazis and all.
Yeah. Well, they were.
And certainly keeping track of the pressure of the various cells in the envelope has got to be its own job.
Yeah. And of course, Howard Hughes was not one to shirk from having a well-manned ship, because how many were on the Spruce Goose? Wasn't it something like 12 engineers to operate that?
Something like that. Yeah. It's just amazing.
I've stood inside both the cockpit and the passenger section of the Spruce Goose, and just to see how many people, there were gauges and dials and switches and consoles everywhere in that place. It was like the Enterprise. Just trying to make sure that all the engines were staying on must have been a full-time job.
Yeah. I don't think we appreciate. We're just so used to all of not the conveniences, but the simplicity that technology affords. On the user interface side, not on the other side. It's even more technical. Sure. But in 1938, everything is, every gauge has its own thing. It's not like they're all together.
I remember that the engines on the Hindenburg were called engine cars. They were little pods on the outside. How many did they have on the Hindenburg? I don't. It was like 4, or was it?
No, it's like 8.
That many? Okay.
It's quite a because you have 4 on the smaller airships and on blimps, but I want to say on the Hindenburg they had to be at least.
Yeah. They were full size like airplane engines running all the time.
And you see the ladders going out of them, into the envelope, because guys would walk along the catwalks and then climb down into the engine compartment for service.
Wow, there's a job to have. Oh, yeah.
What do you do? I'm the engine guy.
The engine guy.
Why are you shaking so much? Because I have to go outside.
And how do you say engine guy in German?
Mechanic man? I don't know.
It's mechanic man.
It's probably at least 14 syllables, so don't worry.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Well, a beautiful end to this particular minute.
Yes.
And Rory, thank you again for being my constant technical advisor on all things bang bang. And I'm sure I'm doing.
I should have done more homework on my Tommy guns, but it was a once in a lifetime thing.
It's okay. Well, I'm sure we'll be talking more weaponry in the fall. I'll be starting on the James Bond minute, and we're doing Diamonds Are Forever. So if you want to go look up what Bert Saxby's carrying when he's shooting at Jimmy Dean.
Well, I'll tell you what. My friend Steve Rubin, who produced Silent Night with me, wrote the James Bond Encyclopedia.
Awesome. Oh, excellent.
Okay. This may be a double header.
There's somebody I want to have a drink with.
So I will hook you up.
Awesome. You can let them know. Well, we have some very interesting guests, and I'll tell you afterwards what. Everybody else will have to check in the fall, but stand by. Listen, we're going to, again, Rory, thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Guys.
For people who want to talk more about this, and you're always welcome to, we are always available on social media. Find us at Twitter, Rocketeer Minute. Find us at Facebook, facebook.com/Rocketeer Minute. Find us at our big site, rocketeerminute.com, where you can order Silent Night from Amazon right there on our store section. I don't have a direct link, but you can find. Well, we might put one up right here. So just check out the site, rocketeerminute.com. We will return tomorrow with some more exciting parts of dirigibles, and don't miss the big our big scene later this week when we talk to the only 2 people who, besides me, who I've never done it, but somebody else that we know have run blimps on our show. So check it out later this week on the Rocketeer Minute. So until next time, thanks for joining us, and over and out.